U.S. sends B-1B bomber to South China Sea. Two B-1B Lancers flew over a U.S. Navy carrier strike group and then over the South China Sea about 1 week after the U.S. State Department issued a statement calling China's efforts to control resources in the contentious waters completely unlawful. The bombers, which are assigned to the 37th Expeditionary Bomb Squadron but are deployed to Andersen Air Force Base in Guam as part of a bomber task force, flew a 14-hour mission in which they integrated with the USS Ronald Reagan carrier strike group in the Philippine Sea on a route that went through the South China Sea. KC-135s from the 506th Expeditionary Air Refueling Squadron supported the bombers. The BTF construct provides the flexibility for our bombers to operate in any area of responsibility and enhances our readiness, Lieutenant Colonel Lincoln Coleman, commander of the 37th EBS, said in a Pacific Air Forces release. It gives us the ability to project air power across the globe. The USS Ronald Reagan has been conducting freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea, including a dual carrier operation alongside the USS Nimitz earlier this month. In response, China's People's Liberation Army Southern Theater Command conducted drills in which JH-7 bombers and J-11B fighter jets fired at targets at sea in the region, the South China Morning Post reported. Defense Secretary Mark T. Esper, speaking during a September 29th video conference, said the U.S. military will keep up its pace of navigation operations in the region, which in 2019 reached its highest level in the 40-year history of the Freedom of Navigation Operations Program. The latest B-1B Lancer flyover of the South China Sea echoes a similar operation in May as well. U.S. B-1B flying over the East China Sea, where China also is involved in territorial disputes with Japan, received warnings from Chinese authorities. China declared an air defense identification zone over much of the East China Sea in November 2013. The Chinese Foreign Ministry reacted negatively to the flight by the B-1 bombers, with Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zheng Shuang saying that China resolutely opposes individual countries using the banner of freedom of navigation and overflight to flaunt military force and harm China's sovereignty and security. The Chinese Defense Ministry, in a statement released to Reuters, noted that it effectively monitors relevant countries' military activities next to China. The Chinese military will resolutely safeguard national sovereignty and security, as well as regional peace and stability, it added. The B-1B, though often erroneously cited as a nuclear-capable bomber, has not been slated for a nuclear delivery mission since the early 1990s. Beginning in 2007, the existing B-1 bomber fleet underwent physical conversion to a conventional-only delivery platform, a process that was completed in 2011. The changes to the bombers in the late 2000s physically prevent it from being re-equipped for the delivery of nuclear air-launched cruise missiles or other nuclear ordnance. The United States military has conducted surface transits by naval vessels and flyovers by military aircraft to protest excessive claims by regional states, including China. The United States does not take any position about which South China Sea claimant state is the rightful owner of any given feature, but does see the preservation of freedom of navigation and overflight as a core interest. The exercise comes after a U.S. warship in late May carried out a maneuvering drill within 12 nautical miles of an artificial island built up by China in the South China Sea. The U.S. military conducts such freedom of navigation patrols to show China it's not entitled to territorial waters there, U.S. officials said at the time. The latest exercise was part of Pacific Command's Continuous Bomber Presence program, but it did not give details on where it was conducted, and it did not refer to it as a freedom of navigation operation. China always maintains vigilance and effective monitoring of the relevant country's military activities in the South China Sea, the ministry said in a statement referring to the United States. China's military will resolutely safeguard national sovereignty, security, and regional peace and stability. China claims nearly all the South China Sea, through which about $5 trillion in shipborne trade passes each year, a stance contested by Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan, and Vietnam. The United States has criticized China's construction of islands and buildup of military facilities there, concerned they could be used to restrict free movement and extend China's strategic reach. U.S. allies and partners in the region had grown anxious as the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump had held off on carrying out South China Sea operations during its first few months in office. U.S. and South Korean F-35 stealth fighter jets team up for the first time in message to North Korea. F-35 stealth fighter jets from the United States and South Korea are teaming up for the first time in a 10-day exercise meant to send a message to North Korea. 6 U.S. Air Force F-35s from Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska arrived in South Korea on Tuesday and will fly with F-35s from the host nation in a series of exercises ending July 14th, the two militaries said. This deployment is aimed at enhancing the interoperability of our air forces while demonstrating the strong deterrence and joint defense posture of the alliance, the South Korean Defense Ministry said. A South Korean spokesperson said this is the first time stealth fighters from the two allies have worked together. Experts say stealth fighters able to evade Pyongyang's radars would be vital in any action against North Korea. Considering the evolving threat posed by North Korea, both leaders agree to initiate discussions to expand the scope and scale of combined military exercises and training on and around the Korean Peninsula, the White House said after the two presidents met. Both leaders also reaffirmed the commitment of the U.S. to deploy strategic U.S. military assets in a timely and coordinated manner as necessary. The U.S. military said the American F-35s would operate alongside other U.S. aircraft during their deployment without giving specifics. But working with the South Korean F-35s is the main event. The F-35 is one of the world's most advanced fighter aircrafts. The U.S. operates hundreds of the jets, which come in 3 configurations: the conventional takeoff and landing F-35As, flown by the Air Force, the Marine Corps' F-35Bs, which can land vertically, and the F-35C, configured for aircraft carrier operations. Like the U.S. Air Force, the South Korean Air Force flies the F-35A, with its first jet delivered by manufacturer Lockheed Martin in 2018. Its fleet of 40 of the 5th-generation jets became fully operational this spring. When they joined F-22 stealth fighters in what at the time was described as the largest concentration of 5th-generation fighter jets ever in South Korea, those warplanes were part of a massive annual U.S.-South Korea exercise named Vigilant Ace, which was canceled later under the Donald Trump administration as the then U.S. president tried to entice North Korea's Kim Jong-un into giving up his nuclear missile programs.
This is Mk-38 to 25 mm chain gun. The Mk-38 is a 25 mm automatic gun system primarily used by the U.S. Navy. It's a chain-driven autocannon that's designed for a variety of roles, including defense against fast inshore attack craft, FIAC, as well as providing a degree of ship defense against enemy aircraft and light surface vessels. The remote operation capability, particularly in the Mk-38 Mod 2 and Mod 3, allows the gun system to be operated from a console inside the ship. This not only protects the operator but also offers a suite of electronic targeting aids. With infrared imaging, day cameras, and laser rangefinders, operators can engage targets with precision. In recent decades, naval threats have evolved. No longer are large-scale naval engagements the sole concern. Small, fast boats loaded with explosives or used for swarm attacks have become a significant threat, as seen in various conflict zones. The Mk-38's ability to rapidly respond to these threats makes it invaluable in such scenarios. Naval weapons, including the Mk-38, must be able to operate in a variety of environments, from the icy waters of the Arctic to the warm climates of the Pacific.